I stood by the window, watching the rain blur the lights of the city. The droplets raced each other down the pane, a silent, frantic competition that felt a lot like my own thoughts. Below, on the streets of downtown Chicago, taxis splashed through puddles, their yellow reflections stretching and breaking in the slick asphalt. It was a cold Tuesday night in October, the kind of evening that makes you want to burrow deep under a blanket and forget the world exists. A sudden flash of lightning illuminated our living room, followed by a low rumble of thunder that shook the old brownstone. The glow caught Maria in the armchair, her face bathed in the soft, blue light of her phone screen. She was scrolling through Instagram, a ghost of a smile on her lips as she double-tapped a photo. Her chestnut hair was a mess of curls, and she was wearing my old Notre Dame sweatshirt, the one with the frayed cuffs. She looked beautiful, and distant. I took a sip of my whiskey, the warmth a sharp contrast to the chill creeping in from the window. My phone, a black rectangle of potential distractions, sat on the end table. I hadn't checked it in hours. I didn't want to. Lately, every notification felt like a potential landmine. A text from a number I didn't recognize, a late-night call that went straight to voicemail, a tagged photo of Maria at a bar I'd never been to, a few weeks ago. Nothing concrete. Just a series of disconnected, buzzing alarms in the quiet of my mind. It started subtly. A new gym bag that appeared in the closet. A sudden passion for hiking she'd never had before. A password change on her laptop. Little things, easily explainable on their own. The gym bag was a gift from her sister for her birthday. The hiking was to get in shape for a marathon. The password change was for security. I wanted to believe her, wanted to smother the nagging voice in my head that whispered, what if, with logic and love. But the whispers were getting louder. The truth was, we had become two people sharing a space rather than a life. Our conversations were polite, shallow exchanges about work and groceries. The spontaneous laughter and whispered secrets had been replaced by a silence so heavy it felt like a third person in the room. I missed the way her eyes used to light up when she talked about her day. Now, they were often fixed on her phone, a private world I was no longer invited into. I had asked her about it, gently at first, then with a hint of desperation. "Everything's fine, Leo," she'd say, her voice as flat as the Chicago skyline. "You're just being paranoid." Maybe I was. But I felt it in my bones, a cold ache that had nothing to do with the October rain. I watched her, the blue light flickering on her face, and a new, more horrifying thought took root. It wasn't just a simple affair. This felt like a secret life, one she was building piece by piece, brick by brick, right under my nose. And I was standing here, watching it happen, unable to do anything but feel the weight of a world I no longer understood. The next week was a slow descent into a new kind of hell. It wasn't the fiery, explosive hell of an argument, but the quiet, suffocating one of 1,000 tiny doubts. I started paying attention to the things I had previously ignored. The way Maria's phone was always face down on the table. The quick flick of her thumb to clear a notification the moment I walked into the room. The new perfume, something floral and light, that I'd never smelled on her before. She said it was a gift from her mom, but I couldn't shake the feeling it was for someone else. The real shift came on Thursday. Maria had a late night at work, a new client presentation she had to prepare. At least, that's what she told me. I was sitting on the couch, half-heartedly watching a baseball game, when my phone buzzed. It was a photo from my best friend, David. A stupid group selfie from a happy hour at a bar we used to frequent. I scrolled through the other faces, and then I saw her. Maria, in the background, laughing with a woman I didn't know. My stomach lurched. It wasn't the woman that got me, but the time stamp. The picture was taken at 8:15 p.m., a full hour after she was supposed to be in her office. The lie, so simple and so bold, felt like a physical blow. I didn't confront her that night. I was too afraid of what I would find out. The fear of confirmation was a paralyzing weight, and it felt easier to live in the limbo of suspicion than to face the concrete truth. So I just pretended. I acted as though everything was normal when she came home, her cheeks flushed from the cold, her eyes a little too bright. The next morning, I was on a mission. I felt a cold, calculated anger replace the fear. When Maria was in the shower, I went through her phone. It was locked, of course, but I knew her password. It was our anniversary date. My heart ached as I typed the numbers, a sick feeling of betrayal and shame coursing through me. I didn't find anything on her texts or social media at first. It was all so normal. Messages from her sister, work emails, a few random memes. My paranoia was starting to feel baseless until I checked her calendar. There was a recurring event every Tuesday and Thursday evening. The name of the event was just a single, nondescript letter, J. I closed the phone and placed it back on her nightstand, my hands shaking. J. A name. A person. The piece of the puzzle I had been missing. It wasn't paranoia. It was real. And now I had a name, a time, and a place to start digging. The rain outside had stopped, but a new, internal storm had just begun. The silence in the apartment was a living thing, thick and suffocating. Maria was in the kitchen, making her morning coffee. The rhythmic grinding of the beans was the only sound, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside my head. The word J echoed in my mind. Just a letter, but it had the weight of a sledgehammer. I walked to the kitchen, my hands shoved deep into the pockets of my jeans. She looked up, a soft smile on her face. "Morning, honey. You want a cup?" "No, I'm good," I said, my voice sounding foreign even to me. I leaned against the counter, watching her, really watching her for the first time in a while. She had a small smudge of flour on her nose from the pancakes she'd made for breakfast. The sight, so ordinary and domestic, twisted the knife of betrayal in my gut. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her smile fading. "Maria," I started, the name feeling like a curse on my tongue. "What's on your calendar for Tuesday and Thursday nights?" Her eyes widened just a fraction, a micro-expression of panic that she immediately tried to mask. "What are you talking about?" she said, her tone a little too casual. "Work stuff. You know how it is." "It's not work stuff, Maria. It's J. The blood drained from her face. The coffee grinder, which she had just turned on, made a high-pitched, whirring noise that seemed to fill the room, a screech of reality breaking. She didn't deny it. She didn't even try. "Leo, I can explain." She began, her voice a whisper. "Explain what?" I shouted, the rage I'd been holding back for weeks finally exploding. "Explain the lies. The late nights. The text messages you delete. Explain the fact that you've been building a second life behind my back." I felt the tears welling up in my eyes, but I pushed them back. Crying felt like a weakness I couldn't afford right now. "It's not what you think," she said, her voice trembling. He's just a friend." "A friend?" I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "Friends don't get a special calendar appointment. Friends don't require you to lie to your husband. Friends don't get you to change your passwords. Don't lie to me, Maria. Not now." The silence returned, but this time it was different. It was heavy with the weight of her admission, even unspoken. Her hands were shaking as she fumbled with the coffee grinder. A single, silent tear traced a path down her cheek, and for a moment, I saw the woman I fell in love with, the one who was scared and broken. But then another image, the one of her laughing in the bar with him, flashed in my mind. The empathy I'd felt was gone. Replaced by a cold, hard resolve. "I need you to be honest with me," I said, my voice low and steady. "Who is Jay?" The confession hung in the air, a physical weight between us. The anger I had felt earlier was gone, replaced by a deep, hollow ache. I looked at Maria, at the tears on her face, and for the first time, I didn't see the woman who had betrayed me. I saw the woman I loved, lost and hurting, and it broke my heart all over again. "I need to be alone," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I didn't want to scream or fight. I just wanted to escape the suffocating reality of our shattered life. I grabbed my jacket and walked out, not knowing where I was going. The city lights of Chicago seemed to mock me, their cheerful glow a sharp contrast to the darkness inside me. I walked for hours, the cold air biting at my cheeks, trying to numb the pain. I sat on a bench in Millennium Park, staring at the glassy surface of the bean, its distorted reflection a perfect metaphor for my life. It was all a twisted mess. I replayed every moment, every lie, every little detail I'd missed. The new perfume, the late nights, the sudden passion for hiking. Each piece of the puzzle now fit, forming a horrifying picture of a secret life I knew nothing about. I thought about Jordan. I pictured him, a faceless man stealing my wife's time, her laughter, her affection. The thought made a new kind of rage boil inside me, a cold, calculated fury that had nothing to do with emotion. It was a plan, a desire for something more than just a quiet departure. I didn't know what it would be, but I knew I couldn't just walk away and let them have their happy ending. Not after everything. I finally returned to the apartment just before dawn. The lights were out, and Maria was asleep on the couch, her phone clutched in her hand. For a moment, she looked so innocent, so vulnerable. I stood there for a long time, watching her, a silent war raging in my mind. The old love fought against the new pain, and in the end, the pain won. I went to my office, took out a small notebook and a pen. It was time to start documenting everything. The lies, the dates, the names. This wasn't a journey to find the truth anymore, this was a blueprint for what came next. The quiet rage that had settled over me was cold and efficient. It was a stark contrast to the burning pain of betrayal. I didn't want to break things or shout. I wanted to build something, a trap, a meticulously planned, unforgiving consequence. My revenge wasn't going to be loud, it was going to be a slow burn. The next morning, I woke up before Maria. The first thing I did was go to my laptop. I created a new, anonymous email address. My first target wasn't Jordan, but his employer. I'd found his LinkedIn profile a week earlier, back when my suspicions were just whispers. He worked at a rival firm in a similar field to mine. This wasn't about ruining his career for the sake of it, but about making him feel a fraction of the powerlessness I felt. I started drafting a message, detailing his relationship with a married woman from a competitor. I didn't send it yet. This was just the first piece of the puzzle. I wanted to see if I could find something bigger, something that would hit him where it truly hurt. My second step was Maria. Our home was no longer a sanctuary, it was a crime scene. I began to subtly gather evidence, not just for a divorce case, but for my own twisted sense of justice. I took photos of her calendar with the recurring J appointments. I meticulously documented the late-night texts, the new passwords, and the receipts for the expensive dinners that were never with me. The apartment felt like a stakeout. When she was in the bathroom, I'd check her phone. When she was on a call, I'd listen in from the next room. Each new discovery, no matter how small, was a victory. The pain was still there, but it was now a tool, a sharp instrument I used to carve out my plan. One Tuesday, she told me she was going to a late gym class. Just getting in a quick workout before a big presentation, she said, her voice a little too cheerful. My heart was pounding. This was it. I waited 5 minutes after she left, then followed her. I watched from a distance as she drove her car not to the gym, but to a chic wine bar in a part of the city we never went to. I saw him waiting there. Jordan. He was taller than I expected, with dark hair and a confident, easy smile. He opened the door for her, and for a split second, she looked at him with a look of pure adoration, the kind of look she hadn't given me in months. That look was all the fuel I needed. I took a photo of them through the window. The revenge was no longer an idea, it was a reality. The photo I took of Maria and Jordan at the wine bar became the cornerstone of my plan. It was irrefutable, undeniable. I printed it, along with a few other documents I'd gathered, receipts, screenshots of deleted texts, and the calendar with the damning J events. It was a file, a dossier of their betrayal. I didn't want a quiet, dignified divorce. I wanted it to be a spectacle, a testament to the fact that I wouldn't just be a passive victim. The next day, I didn't say a word to Maria. I went to a high-powered divorce attorney. I laid out the folder on his desk. He looked through the evidence, a grim smile on his face. "This is excellent, Mr. Miller," he said. "This gives us a lot of leverage. We can go for full asset division, alimony, everything." I just nodded, the words leverage and assets feeling hollow. It wasn't about money. It was about making sure that the price of her freedom was not just my heartbreak, but the public, professional, and personal humiliation of the man she chose over me. That evening, I prepared a final meal. Not a romantic dinner, but a performance. I cooked her favorite dish, grilled salmon with roasted vegetables. She came home, her cheeks flushed from the cold, and I saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. Maybe she thought I was ready to talk, to forgive. I let her believe it. We sat down at the table, the same table where we'd celebrated anniversaries and had our first date night in this apartment. The silence was deafening, but it was my silence, a weapon I was wielding. I waited until we were halfway through the meal. I set down my fork and pushed my plate away. Maria looked at me, her smile faltering. "I know," I said, my voice low. "I know about Jordan. I know about all of it." Her face went pale, the color draining from her cheeks. "Leo, please, I can explain." "I've heard the explanation," I interrupted. "It's not what you think. It's just a friend. Right? Don't bother. I know. I have pictures. I know where you go on Tuesday and Thursday nights. And so does my lawyer. I've already started the divorce proceedings." Her eyes filled with tears, but before she could say another word, I leaned in. "And just so you know," I whispered, my voice laced with a cold, brutal satisfaction, "your new friend Jordan is going to be looking for a new job soon." She stared at me, her mouth agape, the realization of what I had done sinking in. This wasn't just a breakup. This was a demolition. A quiet, final act of revenge. I walked away from the table, leaving her alone with her half-eaten meal and the ruins of the life she had so carelessly thrown away. The last thing I heard as I walked out the door was the sound of a plate shattering on the floor.